CloudDB, shaping your new normal.
Welcome everyone to the 2021 APAC Groundbreakers Virtual Tour by Apaco UC. This year our event will be the biggest one ever done with 144 sessions, including normal sessions, workshops, and hands-on labs from 100 different speakers over 18 days. Also, it will cover sessions in 4 different languages. And please remember to register to as many sessions as you can, because that way you'll be able to watch the replays of all sessions you registered to until December 30. I would like to say thanks to all Oracle user groups and Java user groups that made this event possible, and also to our sponsors, Oracle Groundbreakers and your main sponsor, CloudDB. Now for today's session, Multicloud Development with Azure and Oracle Database Cloud by Alex Key and Christian Shea. Please feel free to ask questions at any time by using the chat window of live webinar in the right lower corner of your screen, and the speakers will be answering your questions at the end of the session. If you have any technical issues or problems during this session, please feel free to use the same chat and to contact me, and I will try to help the best I can. Now, without any more delays, I would like to leave you with this amazing session by Alex and Christian. I just opened the mics.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. So thanks for joining us today. I'm going to cover this. My name is Alex Key, and with me is Christian, although it may look like both Alexes, but we are 2
I'm
people.
real Alex.
Oh, you are? Okay. Well, you know, this is the duality of cloud and on-premise. It's got to look like it's all, you know, on-premise. But Christian and I, we're going to talk about a very popular topic that's in the cloud today, which is the multi-cloud, and that more and more applications are going to the multi-cloud because they're finding that no single cloud provides all the solutions, and putting clouds together is the best way to put together your end-to-end applications. And two of the most popular combinations is the Microsoft Azure Cloud and the Oracle Database Cloud. So we'll talk about that integration. Specifically, we'll talk about how Oracle and Microsoft are partnering to help you as developers, as IT managers, and as enterprises build better applications with Oracle Database and Oracle applications, with Microsoft Azure apps like Office, Power BI, and many innumerable popular applications on both sides of our clouds, and putting them all together so that you have a seamless development experience, deployment experience, and then your end users have a seamless user experience. So we'll talk about some of the ways that you might want to integrate Oracle Cloud and the Azure Cloud together. Then Christian's going to talk about Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code, how you can use those popular Microsoft tools to connect to the Oracle Autonomous Database and the Oracle Cloud. He'll do some demonstrations of that, and then I'll talk about putting it all together, using those tools in Visual Studio, deploying your application, say a web application, to an Azure web app, and then connecting to an Oracle Autonomous Database and seeing how that works end to end. And afterwards, we'll cover questions. So let's talk about the partnership. Why are Microsoft and Oracle getting together? And this is something we announced about 2.5 years ago, middle of 2019, and made a lot of headlines because it was one of the first major partnerships of 2 significant cloud players coming together and seeing that, you know, we had seen for a while that many of our mutual customers, Oracle database customers, Oracle application customers, were Microsoft users of, say, .NET or Office, and, you know, many other mid-tier applications as well. And at the same time, Microsoft was seeing the same of Oracle database users, Oracle apps users. So we saw this mutual benefit. We saw a lot of customers asking, hey, we'd like a fast, secure way to take our Oracle Cloud apps and our Microsoft Azure apps and put them together so that they work much more seamlessly, much faster, much more securely. So this is how this partnership came about. It's from just the customer demand of using our clouds together. And uh, and we actually see that the multi-cloud is going to explode into the future. It's becoming quite clear that there won't be any one vendor that will dominate the cloud market. It is going to be many different vendors, and even within the same company, there's going to be multiple clouds. In much the same way as the old client-server environments and internet environments, where they thought, well, everyone's going to go to using the same technology provider, but it turned out to be, we still have .NET and Java. We still have many different web servers, open source and commercial source. So it's not as if any previous markets saw a single vendor dominate, and it's going to be the same with the cloud market. And the cloud market right now is in its infancy, and because you don't see just, for example, even a dominant infrastructure as a service vendor, or a dominant platform as a service vendor, or SaaS vendor, even within each of those markets, there are innumerable users. So you could be using for SaaS, Microsoft Office is popular, but Microsoft doesn't produce CRM apps. Salesforce is popular there, but Salesforce isn't as popular with ERP and supply chain. Oracle is very popular there. So you already see, like, say, SaaS, you might have to stitch several clouds together. And it's the same with infrastructure or PaaS. Different infrastructure vendors provide different benefits, different levels of service, different prices. And PaaS is also actually pretty specialized too, in terms of PaaS, different platforms as a service that people offer. Like Oracle Autonomous Database is unique to Oracle. Oracle e-business suite on the cloud is also unique to the Oracle Cloud. So what is best is often very hard to determine, because there's different ways to gauge the best of things. So technology, price, maybe you need to have data residency within your country. Then that will depend on where the data centers are located. At Oracle, we actually provide cloud in a box. We call it Cloud at Customer, so that if you want to use the Oracle Cloud but need to have data residency within each country you operate in, we can accommodate that by allowing you to store your data within Oracle Cloud at Customer box and put it in that local data center if you need to. SLAs are going to be different between clouds and different prices for SLAs. Security is going to be different. Service breadth is going to be different. So those are just some of the things in which there are big differences in this offering. And customers will pick and choose which one they want best, which one will be the best offering in combination of their attributes. And we often find that most companies are picking Oracle and Azure for their services, for many of their corporate services and IT services. So it's going to be a very common cloud connection that we're seeing. And some of the most common usage scenarios we're seeing are things like Azure PaaS with Oracle PaaS. So the demo I'm going to show you later on is Azure App Service with the Oracle Autonomous Database, or Oracle RAC on our infrastructure, or also as part of our Autonomous Database, or Exadata Cloud Service as well. Or Azure PaaS with Oracle SaaS, so something like Azure App Service with the Oracle Fusion Cloud. Or Azure SaaS, like Office 365 with the Oracle Cloud, in which you have Office 365 applications working with the Database Cloud or Fusion Cloud. And of course, we have Cloud at Customer, which I mentioned, which Azure can work with. But these are just some of the combination. You can combine any sort of services together, and as the more and more data center, on-premise data center apps move to the cloud, you're going to see more and more variation of different services that can be tied together. And having this partnership is going to be key to making sure our mutual customers are successful. So specifically, what is it besides what is technically there for you as a customer if you are using both the Oracle Cloud and Azure? What are the benefits? So the big thing that customers want if they have two data centers from two different companies is a fast interconnect. So a direct interconnect will not only provide fast performance, we generally see, in our experience, less than 2 milliseconds, um, uh, 2 millisecond performance between the Azure and Oracle data center clouds. And these two the direct interconnect is always between data centers within the same region. So, for example, Oracle and Microsoft, we each have a data center in the Washington D.C. region, Phoenix, San Jose, and that's the U.S. In APAC, we have it in Japan and Tokyo. So those are there to ensure that you don't have the distance issue either, but of course, you also have the direct pipe between the two. We also provide unified identity and access management between the clouds and on-premise Active Directory, so that if you log into the Oracle Cloud, if you log into your on-premise Active Directory, or you log into Microsoft Azure Active Directory, you can have, if your administrators have set it up, your identity will be able to be passed to each of those seamlessly, so that it's easier to single sign into one, and you'll have access to all the services available to the others. And then collaborative support. That's very key for customers who are working with both our clouds. If they find a problem, they're going to want to be able to have Microsoft and Oracle support work together to resolve the issue. So that's going to be a better customer experience. So where do we have these direct interconnects? These direct interconnects are available in, as I mentioned, in Washington D.C. area, in Ashburn, San Jose, and Phoenix. Phoenix is the latest one, having been added. Canada in North America, Brazil, in London, in the UK, the Netherlands, and Frankfurt, and in APAC is in Japan, in Tokyo, that we have them. So we often will put clouds together when there's specific customers asking for it. So if you need a direct interconnect, and again, a direct interconnect gives you the dedicated, very high throughput, low latency private network connection, so that it's secure, it's private, just for your use. You just have to ask your Oracle and Microsoft sales rep, and it's usually something that the Oracle and Microsoft Cloud teams can put together for you. So we put together these when customers have asked for it, but these are the places where we're offering it already. So that was a lot of talk about the business details and why strategically a lot of customers will want to use both clouds together if they have, and how to better integrate the two clouds together. Let's turn it over to Christian, who's going to talk about using some of the popular tools that Microsoft has with Oracle's increasingly popular autonomous database. So I will stop sharing.
Great. Thanks a lot, Alex. Let me go ahead and add the slides onto here, if I can find it. Share screen. Okay. You see this okay, Alex?
I'm seeing it just great, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'll turn off my video in a second.
Yeah, you're not Alex, so
Yes, I am Christian Shea, the other Alex, as I am known. So I'm going to talk about what we offer for Visual Studio developers and also Visual Studio Code developers when it comes to the Oracle Cloud. So, you developers choose where they feel like working, what they like, tools that they like to work on, whether that be Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, Eclipse. There's lots of choices out there, and Oracle tries to have tools available for any of those development environments. And since everybody's using the cloud these days, supporting the cloud is very important. So the first integration point I'd like to mention is for Visual Studio. Visual Studio is primarily used by Windows developers. There are some users on Macintosh, but primarily Windows users, and so we have a free extension for Visual Studio 2019, Visual Studio 2022, which just came out. We will be supporting that in the near future. So this is free on the Visual Studio Marketplace, and it allows you to explore your databases and your autonomous databases and manage them. So I'll be giving you a demo of how that works, and you can see on the screenshot there how that looks. And then there's some other features that are really useful for developing. If you choose to do your database development as well as the other kind of development you're doing. Things like PL SQL editing and debugging, SQL script generation, schema comparison, and source control integration and things like that. And when you see these slides elsewhere, I've included a link that takes you on a walkthrough of our code integration, of our cloud integration. So with that, let me go ahead and go to a demo here. All right, Alex, can you see the Visual Studio okay? You're probably muted, so it's probably not worth asking.
Yep.
But, okay, great. So this is Visual Studio and 2019. As I mentioned, Visual Studio 2022 support is coming, but for now, you'll need to be on Visual Studio 2019 to take advantage of the features that I mentioned here. So what you'll want to do is go to the extension, manage extensions, and in case you're on a small little screen, that's what it looks like. And from in here, you can go to the online marketplace and type in Oracle. And there you will see our extension. And then you click download and it will give you a little V6 file, which you can then run. It will integrate with Visual Studio and you're off to the races. So once you've done that, you will notice that there is a Oracle Cloud Infrastructure node right here in Server Explorer. That's ours. We also integrate with Server Explorer's data connections, which I'll get to in just a second. But this is how you manage your cloud and view your cloud. So let me quickly go to Add New Account Entry. And I happen to have a config file already set up for my values here. But if you don't, you can click on this link and learn how to set up a config file your first time so that you can connect to your cloud. I need to choose my default compartment. I usually guess wrong. I think it's this one. If I'm wrong, I can easily change it. Yes, that's correct. I could easily change it by changing the compartments right here. You can see I can also change the regions for this cloud connection. So once I'm in here already, you can see that the Server Explorer has some autonomous database resources listed here. These are already available to me. I have a always free instance. If you're just getting started with cloud, we have free instances you can create. Give it a try. You can just sign up for Oracle Cloud. Okay, so but you can do things like create a new autonomous database, and it will bring up a create dialog, and you just fill it out and kick it off. And once you have it created, you will notice that that it will be here and that there's some coloration to the icons. So it's probably like you would expect. The red ones indicate that they are stopped. The yellow ones are in process of coming up or shutting down. And if there's no colored ball at all, then it means that it's available to you. This little green star that you see indicates that it's an always free instance because you do have a limited amount of them. And, if you run out, it'll help you figure out which ones you need to delete. All right. So once you're in here, you can see that there's some options of things that you can do in the menu. So I'll get to the first one at the end, but you can clone. This is neat. You can clone your database to make a copy of it. You can stop your instance. View the web service console. You can terminate it. You can change your password, upgrade your instance from always free to paid, and download your credentials files as a zip file. These are the files that you use in your app to connect to the database itself. Now, you don't really have to do that actually, because we have this item up here, create data connection. And what this does for you is it downloads your credentials files for you. as you can see in this dialog. And once it downloads them, it downloads them and opens up a dialog, and all you have to do is enter in the database password. Hopefully I'll get it right. And you'll see that if it works, you'll see that it opened a data connection down here. So now you're off to the races to explore your database. And we have all kinds of features here, which I'm not going to be able to get into. But for example, you can look at your table data. You can look at your packages. You can edit them right there in the Visual Studio Editor. You can test them out and everything. So this is just a very beginner's look at this. And we're actually going to be doing a session on Friday, actually depends on what country you're in, but about 48 hours from now, maybe a little bit later, we're going to be doing a session that's a deep dive into these tools for Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. In a couple minutes, I'll show you a slide that has the session name. All right, so this is Visual Studio. And let's move along now to talk about Visual Studio Code. Okay, so Visual Studio Code is quite similar in concept. Visual Studio Code is, again, from Microsoft. It's open source. Now, it happens to be cross-platform. So this is available on Linux, Mac OS, and Windows. It's extremely popular with Python developers, with C# developers, Java developers. You probably, I'm sure you've heard of it. But in any case, this is taking the world by storm, and we have an extension for it, just like we do with Visual Studio. So in any case, it's free, and it has very similar features. It's a little bit younger than the other products. So there's a few things that we don't do yet, but we're working very hard to add a lot of features to this product. There are actually some things we do with Visual Studio Code that you can't do in our Visual Studio extension. And very similar to what I mentioned before with Visual Studio, I have a walkthrough that talks about how to use Visual Studio Code with Oracle Cloud. And if you click on that link when you see these slides, you can have a look at my blog. Okay, let's go ahead and get to the demo. All right, so I have some C# code I was working on, but it could be Python or whatever else you're interested in. So similar to Visual Studio, we have an extension. And so like Visual Studio, you just go to the marketplace, type in Oracle, and you will see Oracle Developer Tools for VS Code as one of your choices. I've already installed it, as you can see here, but you could just click the install button, and it takes about a couple minutes to install. If you have all the prerequisites, there's only one little prerequisite, which is the .NET Core runtime. But we have very hand-holding instructions on how to get that on your machine if you don't have it already. But other than that, it's very quick. So once you have this installed, then you'll get this little database icon over here. And that's our entry point. So you can see that I already have a couple Oracle Database Express Edition instances I've been using to explore. But I also have a Oracle Cloud Infrastructure tree control over here. So it's the same concept as what we were seeing with Visual Studio. So it kind of, if you have a config file in your directory, it will automatically connect to your cloud resources. If you don't have it, this link here will take you to a browser that will tell you how to do it. All right, so similar to what you saw with Visual Studio, you can very easily create a database. So let me just create one. Since I didn't do it with Visual Studio, let's do it here. I don't have any always free instances to use, so I'm going to change this to just a paid instance. But if you don't have any always free instances, you can do that. And let me just pick a password here. Okay, and I think I mistyped the password. All right, create it. And you'll see it starting up right here, Groundbreakers. And you'll see that it's a yellow ball, just like what you saw in Visual Studio, meaning that you can't use it yet. It's coming up. The red one is stopped, and the one with the green star is always free, and it's ready to go because there's no red ball or yellow ball in that icon. And then also, let's see, what else can you do? You can change the compartment or region. You can choose a compartment and you can change a region to find your resources. And finally, once you have an instance you want to work with, you can right click on it and you can see some of the choices here. So create a connection in Database Explorer, download credential files, start, stop, terminate, change the password, look at the Service Console. Does it sound familiar? Yes, it's very similar to what we had with Visual Studio. So very similar to what you saw with Visual Studio, we allow you to create a connection in Database Explorer, which is really nice because we download the credentials files for you. I need to give the password to the database. And now you can see that it's over here in the Explorer. Let me move everything down so you can see a little better. And I can connect and run scripts. You can already see some of the juicy features we have here, like autocomplete. So there's a lot of features here, but I have to give time to Alex to talk to you about Azure. So let me go back to the slides. So please join us on, if you're in the Australian time zone or thereabouts, we will be on December 11th. If you're on Pacific time or in America or Europe, we will be on Friday the 10th. So these are the times, and the session is a deep dive into SQL and PL SQL development using Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. So let me go ahead and turn this over to Alex.
Let me unmute myself and then share again. Let's see, share screen. Entire screen. Here we go. Okay. So I'll do the slides real quick. I'll show you guys how to put it all together. Oops. Let me see. Where's the, keep forgetting it's in the browser. Where's my browser? There it is.
Alex, I can't hear you. Francisco, can you hear?
See my screen?
Now I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. Okay, let's continue on. So I wanted to show you all how to put it all together using Oracle Autonomous Database and Azure Web Apps. It's a very common thing to use. Azure Web Apps is it's unique to Microsoft because it's specifically it's a PaaS service they offer, and Oracle Autonomous Database is something unique to Oracle. It's our automated database so that you don't have to do a lot of the administration, don't have to do a lot of the patching. We take care of the database for you, just like Microsoft takes care of that on the middle tier with .NET. So let me go to Visual Studio. I have this web app here. It's a very, very simple web app. You can actually created just by starting out with the ASP.NET Core web app. It's a .NET 5 app, but this should work with .NET 6. There's nothing special in the code here. And I've actually have the code up on our GitHub site. If you ever, if you want to grab it, it'll be in the session demos 2021, this ODP Core ADB Azure directory, and then this can provide the code for you. So what we're going to do is just connect to an Oracle Autonomous Database. So we're going to provide the username, password, and the data source. And I'll have my TNS names, my SQLnet.aura, and my wallet file locally right now. So I'm going to first run this locally to the Oracle Autonomous Database, and then we're going to deploy it to Azure to see how it all gets put together. So right now I just have my TNS directory locally. So I set in my ODP.NET code, which does the data access to the Oracle, that TNS admin and that wallet location is all local right now. So I set both to this, well, actually it should be, it's local, should be here. That second directory will eventually be my directory on the Azure cloud. So we'll wait about doing that for now. We're just going to test it out locally just to show you it works. Then we connect to the database. It's going to create a web page, and the database will return us a result set. So we first connect, we provide a command object, and then we try to connect to the database, or at least we say we are, which should execute after we call the open on the connection. So once it's open, we give it a select command. So in shared autonomous database, you have access to this sales history customers folder. It's just not folder, I'm sorry, schema. Table. Well, sales history is the schema. Customers is the table, and it's just a customers orders table, or a customers list table, I should say. And we're going to fetch the first 20 rows from it: the first name, the last name, the city, and the credit limit of the customers. It's just a sample schema that Oracle has for all shared autonomous databases, so you should be able to access this as well. So what we're going to do is we select from it, and then we execute our reader, and then we read the results and output it out to the web page. And that's it. So we're just having a very simple read application. Let me see if there's anything else interesting I should show you. There's not too many files here. It's basically, I just took the empty ASP.NET 5 website and just added some code to the startup.c# file. And then I added this DB directory, which includes my wallet and my TNS name and SQLnet.aura file locally. So let's run this now. I'll hit the run button here, and we should get a web page showing up. There we are. It's connecting to my local host, and it should be connecting to my Oracle Autonomous Database. And we see that we got connected. And here's the first 20 customers as we expected, with their first, last name, their city, and then their credit limit. So it's working fine. We're connected to Autonomous Database. Let's try to deploy this to Azure and get it working with an Azure web app rather than my local web server. So we're going to go to our Solution Explorer. What we're going to do is right-click on the project and go to Publish. And Publish is going to ask me, since I published before, it has something existing, but we're going to create something new here. We're going to create a new deployment. So we're deploying to Azure. So we choose the Azure target. And then we can choose, you can deploy, since this is a .NET Core app, you can deploy to Linux if you want, but Windows actually has many more choices in Azure than the Linux choices. So I generally use Windows. And then we need to add the app service instance, since I don't have one set up already. We'll create a new one. We will choose where we want the hosting. So I want to put this in the Western US, where I'm located. And we're going to use the basic one, a level of the hosting plan. And the reason why I'm using the basic one, and you probably will need to with the autonomous database if you are using wallets, is that wallets are going to be, well, you don't have to store the wallets on the file system, but if you store your wallet, your TNS names, and your SQLnet.aura on the file system, then you're going to need to enable the website load user profile, and that gives IS the ability to access files on the file system, such as the wallet. If you don't need that, then if you don't deploy that, you can use the free or shared. But since we are deploying this as like a real app, we're going to use the basic 1 level. But you can use that level or anything higher to deploy. So we say OK, and then we create it, and Visual Studio will then prepare the ability to then push onto Azure the creation of a website for you to run your web application. So it's creating the app service, and it's going to complete that. And once it completes that, we will then publish it to actually Azure. Then Azure will actually then have it up for us. So we can see that it's all been prepared, and we will finish. After finish, we can then see if the configuration looks correctly. We're going to use .NET 5. It's going to be a release. Everything looks good, so we'll hit publish. And with publish, it will then push all the files up. One thing, it actually doesn't push up our subdirectories, so we're going to subdirectories you've created. So we're going to have to do that manually, because I put in here actually, I made a mistake. I've forgotten to change my directory here. Just realized that we are going to use something in the Azure local directory rather than my local directory where I put my wallet file and my TNS names and SQLnet.aura. We are going to put this in the Azure websites local directory. So it's going to be the home site www and the DB directory. And so let me see, make sure it published. It published all the other files okay. Yep, it's trying to run, but we are not done, so I'm not going to let it run. And now we will have them publish this DB directory. And let's see. Okay, that's not good. I'm not sure what. Maybe it's. Oh, maybe I have to use this one. Let's try it again. I've published a few times before, so yeah, I think that's why. Okay, yeah. It had a problem with the, since I had several different published files, it was trying to publish to an old website that was no longer there, but I fixed that. And then let me also, I think I have to re-push the entire thing because let me just build it because I should save this. Okay, let me push this again because I changed the file. So I'm going to have to push the new file out there. So let's hope that that worked. Okay, and I need to make a few more changes before I can continue on. So we'll go to we'll go to Azure right now, the Azure console. Let's refresh this. We should see, oh, it wants me to sign in again. I guess I've been out too long. Let me sign in again. And the website should show up under my account now that is just created. Yep, we see it here. Actually, we see two of them. And it should be, I believe, the later one, which now I've got to compare timestamps, but I think this is the later one. Okay, so nope, this is the plan. This is not the website. This is the website, yeah. Click the wrong one. Okay. The website, so what do we need to do? Let's make sure all the files got pushed up first. So we'll take a look at the console and check the directory to see if there's in the home directory for the website, everything looks good, but I don't see the DB directory. So I'm gonna have to push it again. So it's ending in 751. Okay, so let's push that to 751. 751 here. Publish. Okay, we see that it's collecting the files. Now it's updating everything. Updating the files, and then we should see the files in the DB directory get pushed up. It's taking a bit longer than I thought it would, but hopefully we'll have some success. Okay, it looks like the publish succeeded, although I don't see the actual files that I wanted to succeed. It may not actually be pushing it. Geez. Not sure why Visual Studio decides now's the time to push errors. Oh, okay, this time it looks like it's been successful. Okay, real demo in action. Okay, so now we should see that directory here. And let's see if it shows up. Oh, it's here. Okay, let's just do a quick check. Sure, it's there. Okay, it's there. Okay, so now let's finish our configuration. So I've got to enable that website load user profile. And so we've got to add that to an application setting. So under application settings, we do new, and we do website, oops, got to be underscore, load user profile. And just to make sure, yep, that's it. And make that enabled. So we set it to 1. After we do that, we save. That will reboot the web server, and it should be restarting. It says it's actually updated successfully, but it's still probably in the process of restarting. So let's see if it's ready to go. It's not ready to go yet, so we'll try it again. It should be coming up. Usually takes 15, 20 seconds to come up, and then it just has to load. So let's see if this works, because we're about out of time. There it is. It worked. So we can see that it's a real life demo because a lot of things screwed up in the middle of doing the demo, such as it didn't deploy it was trying to deploy to the wrong website that no longer was created. But I fixed all that in real time, and we can see that it's working. You know that it's going to Azure because you can see that it's no longer going to localhost when we test it locally. It's going to the Azure website. The temporary Azure websites that everyone uses for their test deployments and tests. So if you want more information, we have more places you could go to learn how to use it. You can go to oracle.com/topics/technologies.net/.netcloud.html. We have tutorials. In fact, there's a video on there that will kind of show you how to do the same thing I've been doing right now, so that you can replicate that. You can get to that website through otn.oracle.com/.net, in which if you see .NET on the cloud, it'll take you to that website. So that's just our .NET website. GitHub is where you'll find this sample code to deploy yourself. And then you can work with us on Twitter or watch the video on YouTube if you'd like. And of course, if all those resources don't work out for you, email Christian or I. So I want to thank you for attending. I don't know, do we have some time for questions, or are we out of time?
I don't believe we have questions that I can see.
We have time. If anyone has any questions for Alex and Christian, please feel free to post through the chat window here or to the Facebook Live. We will be able to get them for the speakers to answer. In the meantime, thank you so much, Alex and Christian, for a great presentation, a lot of good content, and it's very interesting to see these multi-cloud capabilities, also working with Oracle and Azure. especially when we have issues like today with AWS that went down in the US for a good few hours. Don't want not going to say anything more than that.
It affected you guys too.
And a few use ConnectWise that we use it for a few things got affected.
Okay. And that's one reason why that some customers have chosen multi-cloud before, because they are afraid of relying too much on one vendor as well. It's people choose it for the multi-cloud for different reasons, but that's one thing is to have separate clouds and redundancy. So that's another form of redundancy, if you will. But I want to thank the Oracle users groups in APAC for hosting us. This has been great, an opportunity to talk to some of our customers, our developers out there who are using our technologies, and hopefully they've learned something today.
Fantastic. That was a pleasure and an honor to have you guys here. Now we will have Christian in I think so just over an hour again.
So that'll be an interesting session.
Actually, yeah, we didn't mention I'm doing a session on .NET, developing .NET apps for Kubernetes. So that's coming up in, like he said, an hour and 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, a lot of people are looking into using Kubernetes, so that's a great session.
No, fantastic. We have no questions coming for the moment. For sure, the people will love to ask questions offline, especially with English not being the first language. You can see the emails on the screen of Alex and Christian. If you're watching the replay or you want to do the questions offline, please feel free to contact Alex and Christian by the emails on the screen. Saying that, thank you so much, Alex. Thank you so much, Christian, for taking the time. Please take care and be safe. Be safe, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Have a wonderful day, evening, or morning, wherever you are.
CloudDB, shaping your new normal.